Morning guys. So I'm just on my way to my fourth refinance valuation in the space of about a week, and it's actually 4 out of 5. I've got another one next week, and it's like buses, isn't it? You don't do a valuation for a refinance for a few months and then they all come at once. And I thought I'd just talk about it because for property investors, property developers, buy, refurbish, refinance, the valuation process is one of the biggest points of the whole project, because you are left in the hands of someone else, the valuer. And over the years, 15 plus years, I've had some absolute ridiculous scenarios, including massive down valuations. And I thought I'd talk about how I've tried to hedge my bets to mitigate that happening again. But before I do, I suppose I'll mention what sort of led me to focus on this as one of the key factors in the property buy, refurbish, refinance sort of process. A few years ago, we were doing a lot of volume. This particular year, I think we did like 60 property purchases, and the purchase is never really an issue. The purchase price is the purchase price, but the refinance valuation, we had one individual from a very large company come to nearly all of ours, and without failure, without exception, each property was down valued by at least 20%, but in some cases 30%. Now this isn't 30% against my hope value, isn't 30% against the commercial valuation, it's 30% against actual evidence on Rightmove, properties sold. And this guy, the first time I met him, I tried to build up a bit of a rapport because it does help. And he was probably 10, 12 years older than me, and he was trying Forex trading, which we all know the type of people that attracts and the typical end result that delivers. So he was obviously trying to do something more than what he was doing in his day-to-day, which is nothing wrong with it. But that's the sort of person I was dealing with. And I would go to the first property, have this conversation with him, but time we got to like 8, 9 properties in, he didn't like me. I could tell. You can just tell, can't you? And typically when people don't like you for no reason, it's because that they see something in you that they're missing in their own life. It's that's the name of the game. And the down valuation started coming thick and fast, and it was having huge consequences on us pulling our money out. So to try and hedge our bets, because you can appeal it, but if the valuer isn't going to work with you, it's pointless. If the valuer is going to work with you and they may have missed something, then they'll accept that. And those are the surveyors that you want to be working with. So it stems right back to the product that you used to buy and the product that's then available to you to refinance. So I like a bridge to let product because that allows me to refinance with the same lender. I don't get a duplication of the fee. I can do it within 6 months, which is key for my projects because I can get in and out within weeks. So first of all, pick the right lender and the right product. And then secondly, give them a rationale as to why you can't use some surveyors in your local area. So my example is a really good one. We raised a complaint. We even took some legal action against them. So when you provide that evidence, so you don't get to pick the surveyor, but you can tell them which ones you don't want to work with. That can get it down to the few when you're using things like VAS panel and the other paneled the valuers. And if you can, start to use the same 2 or 3 companies, because they tend to send the same surveyor for your type of project. You can build a bit of a rapport. They can understand what sort of work you're going to do. And if you use the bridge to let product that I've mentioned, which if you don't know how to access, you can fill in my link tree and I'll introduce you to my broker. They will give you a GDV value based on the schedule of works that you've submitted before you've done the work. So you know what you've got in terms of a minimum valuation for the refinance. So that's a pretty good position to be in. But the reason why I'm doing this video is I'm on my way to a valuation with a new bank, with a new methodology of valuing, because every lender gives a different criteria. Some of the lenders that I've fallen out with, that I don't work with anymore, is because they give back channel direction to surveyors to try and reduce the valuation. This is another way of reducing their risk. So if you're doing a 75% loan to value product, but the surveyor is pushed to give a valuation for an auction purchase if it was repossessed to be sold within 30 to 60 days or whatever, and that's the value the lender wants to use, they will effectively value your property 10% less. So their loan to value is actually 65% against the true market value. So their risk ratio is better, but you don't actually get anything better. You don't get a cheaper product off the back of it. Those type of lenders, those back channels, I absolutely detest. I think it's a poor way of doing business, and I don't use them. And I won't name some of the lenders, but they are typical HMO lenders, and I've never actually took a product with them because of this factor. So the valuation I'm going to now, I mean, new bank, new set of criteria. I'm very, very nervous because it was a big valuation fee. It was like 3,600 quid, including that. It's a huge amount of money for a valuation when you're at the beck and call of a surveyor and you don't know if it's ever going to go any further forward. But the reason I've taken this risk is I've tried to limit my exposure as much as I can. So I've been speaking to the BDM direct. I'm dealing with the bank direct. There's no broker. He's quite understanding. He's been able to adjust some of the conditions and the product criteria to fit this project, because it is a complex project. And I've also spoken to the valuer, who I haven't used for some years. There's been some personnel changes, and if you can have a conversation with the valuer early on, and they aren't these old school commercial ones who are a bit up their own arse, and they're, you know, happy to talk to you, pleasant on the phone, want to understand what you're doing, that's half the battle. Because sometimes when they don't fucking like you or they don't want to talk to you, they will just give you a down valuation just because they can. They're a law to themselves. It's like planners, they can do what the fuck they want. So I was really nervous, and I was, you know, for a new bank as well, I might get the valuation through and I might have a hurdle at the other end. But I decided to take that risk because the product is so attractive. In this market, it's probably one of the most competitive products I've seen for years. Notwithstanding, it's also a product that I'm going to be able to rinse and repeat on my future projects exactly under this model, which I've mentioned on other videos. And that product will allow me to extract, I think, around 20 to 25% extra in cash out, tax-free cash, to enable me to grow this side of my new venture. So with all of that said, yes, it is a risk. Yes, I've mitigated parts of it where I could, but if it pays off, it could open up my whole world to this sector of refinancing and improve my ability to buy, refurbish and refinance with these types of properties. So I thought I would do the video on the way there, and I'll do another one when I get the results back, and let's see if it pays off.